money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
We roll on with JVT. It's our old friend, the Meat Man, Steve Wyss, now, our weekly visit to talk soccer. Nordic podcast, Because We Win pod at Meat Man Soccer on X. He joins us on the Progressive guest line. I hope you had a good Super Bowl, my friend. Good to talk to you. How are things?
Hello, Paulie, and good to be on the show with JVT here. I enjoyed the result in terms of, I'm not a great fan of the Chiefs either. Didn't have a great betting day on the Super Bowl, unfortunately, for me. I lost on the field goals market and stuff. So, this is a reminder for me to stick to the soccer.
Butker got a lot of people. That's hilarious. And I was shocked that Jeff Sherman at the Westgate said their biggest win was Butker over 1.5 made field goals and significant movement in that one. Let's go Saturday, the Prem, Asian handicap. How about Aston Villa to put it on Ipswich Town?
Yeah, minus 1.25 on the Asian handicap for Aston Villa. Basically, I think Villa are going to win quite convincingly against an Ipswich team who have, they've struggled badly. They've lost 9 of the last 12 games in the Premier League. 8 of their 14 losses have been by a 2-goal margin or more. And that's crucial when you're taking handicaps is, teams can get beat, but how big are they getting beat? And when Ipswich lose, it tends to be by quite a lot of goals. They had a really bad run at the start of the new year. Manchester City beat them 6-0 at home. Liverpool put a big score past them as well. They did win in the Cup last week, but I'm not counting cups. This is the Premier League. This is big boy soccer. And Aston Villa, I think they've got a bit more confidence again. They've progressed through to the Champions League. Only one home defeat all season, which was against Arsenal. They've had a few too many draws, but usually it's against decent enough teams. They've got to be beating Ipswich at the bare minimum. And if that happens, then you will not lose your full stake here. You'd only lose half your stake if it was a 1-goal win. But I think there's night and day between the teams. Villa are far better. Ipswich probably will go down. And I think something like 2-0, 3-0 to Villa here. So the handicap makes sense.
What about Man City and Newcastle? Man City last EPL game, I think they got blasted by Arsenal, right? So what do we do here?
I think we've got to keep opposing Manchester City. I did it in midweek in the Champions League against Real Madrid. And City led that game 2-1 for a long time before, again, collapsed defensively. Some of the goals they're conceding, it's you never ever would have believed you would see a Manchester City side defend so poorly. Their legs seem to have gone with some players. They've lost pace, intensity. Without the ball, they're one of the worst teams in the Premier League, I think now, of the decent teams anyway. So Newcastle draw double chance. It's close to even money, minus 105, basically not to lose the game. The historical stats do not support this bet. So if you like history, then you don't follow this one. Newcastle have lost on their last 9 visits to this stadium. They haven't scored a goal here since 2018. But we have to really appreciate how the field has changed with Manchester City. Suddenly they've become really poor from what they were. So we've got to go with recent form. Newcastle lost 2 of the last 14 games. Won their last 6 away in all competitions, including at Arsenal. They seem a different version. They've got powerful attacking weapons like Anthony Gordon and Alexander Isak can cause City all sorts of problems. I wouldn't honestly be surprised if Newcastle won the game. But let's just play it safe and go with draw double chance. Manchester City, very, very opposable.
Very good, my friend. Things have been quiet, and we're supposed to get the ruling this month. We know we have all these bets on Man City to be relegated, to finish outside the top 10, to finish outside the top 5, all these other teams to finish ahead of them. What are you hearing with the ruling, with the reduction, points reduction? And you said something interesting about the history of this. If you appeal, what happens?
Well, to answer your question, I've not been hearing much recently. It's almost like the quiet before the storm, if you know what I mean. It wouldn't honestly surprise me if something came up very, very soon and happened very, very quickly. I said at the start of the season, if they do get a deduction, it's probably going to be significant, 30 points or more. Then when that comes out, there's always an option to appeal. The thing is, sometimes if you appeal, the punishment could end up worse. It doesn't happen very often, but that would be a risk as well. I just think whatever happens, whenever the verdict comes out, I hope it gets done very, very quickly. And this season, we don't want it lingering as bettors.
Yes.
It's pretty unfair. It's unfair from a sporting angle. It's unfair from a betting angle. But hopefully, we heard at the start of the season, it might happen in February. Before the end of this month, I'd like to see some development on that front. Let's hope.
All right, yes, for bettors, for fans, for Premier League, I think it needs to be in there. Here it is. Really? This is the penalty. You accept it. We move on, and that's the end of it. That's what it should be. How about Bournemouth against Southampton?
It's a bit similar to the Aston Villa Ipswich game. I've got to go with the favourite on the -1 Asian handicap here. So full push, full refund if they win by 1 goal margin. There is a massive golfing class between the two teams. It's as simple as that. And in fact, I'm actually thinking about laddering this one to -2 and even -2.5 Asian handicap here, because I think Bournemouth could put a big beating on Southampton. Southampton are terrible. They have lost 19 out of 24 matches. It's absurd. It's so bad. They could be one of the worst Premier League teams ever. They did win last time out against Ipswich. That doesn't mean that much to me. Ipswich, like I said before, are very, very poor. And again, Southampton are a team, when they lose, they tend to lose quite big. 10 times they've lost by two goals or more this season. So, yeah, the sort of team, when the slippery slope slides on the day, they start falling behind, they just lose their heads, give up. And Bournemouth are in great form. They were unbeaten in 11 straight Premier League games before they lost to Liverpool in their most recent match. We'll let them off that. Liverpool are a very good team. And they just rack up a lot of goals. Justin Kluivert, one of the top players recently, the son of a famous striker back in the day, Patrick Kluivert, he's been brilliant, scoring goals from everywhere. I know there was a slight doubt about his participation this weekend because his wife just gone into labour, I do believe. So he's gonna, he's gonna be a new dad. That can work actually the other way though sometimes, and he's going to be really motivated if he gets on the field this weekend and may well score a goal. Watch out, maybe a card as well if he takes his shirt off with a message for his new.
Okay.
So just a little angle there. Watch out for him. If he plays, I think he's going to be really fired up. Maybe a little bit tired as well, but we bang up for it.
All right, let's go to Sunday.
I like it.
Paul and I were sitting in here. We just watched that tough draw for Liverpool against Everton, and they have the Wolves coming up on Sunday. What do we do here?
I really like the idea of opposing Liverpool at the minute, guys, because I think they're just in a stretch where the nerves are getting to them somewhat. They're 7 points clear at the top of the table. Everyone's expecting them to win the league. They've just been hit hard by that sucker punch late goal, last gasp goal against Everton there. And I'll be honest, I quite like opposing both teams this week. I nearly had Crystal Palace as a pick as well on the money line. Both sides are giving it everything. Anyone who watched that game, like, they've left nothing out there. Yeah. So what's left in the tank, emotionally, physically, and now they're a 2-goal favourite against Wolves who are fighting for their lives. I think Liverpool just happily will get on with the job here and get the win by 1-goal win or something. But +2 Asian handicap on Wolves is too big. Liverpool only won two times in the last 12 by more than a 2-goal margin. One of those was Ipswich. One of those was Accrington Stanley from Division 4. So I think Wolves can keep it close. +2 Asian handicap. They are fighting for their lives, guys, and might get Liverpool a good time.
Well, the money, Paulie and JVT, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Steve Wiss, our guests at Meatman Soccer on X. Because we win pod, he's on the progressive guest line. Let's go to the Championship League, the league below the Premier League. You have a great angle here. Middlesbrough minus a goal against Watford. They're turmoil.
Watford are awful. They've lost 7 of their last 10 matches, and I know a Watford fan, and he's very, very worried for the manager, Tom Cleverley. I think he's probably lost the dressing room. It's only a matter of time before he gets fired. I think they're waiting until they're through a bad run of results, a bad run of fixtures. My own team, Leeds United, played Watford in midweek, beat them 4-0. Most of the goals were a gift, and after 1-0 down, they gave up. So I'm really worried about the players. They've got to go away from home, a long travel up to Middlesbrough here. And I think Middlesbrough would be probably -1.25, -1.5 goals if Borough themselves were in good form. They've only won 2 of the last 10. A lot more was expected of Middlesbrough this season. I know a lot of people have got tickets on them to finish in the playoffs, to even win the league on an each way. And basically the squad's far better than what their league position suggests. So I think they're going to come good at some stage. The manager's decent, Michael Carrick. This is a perfect game to rebound. If you're in bad form, you want Watford at home because they are just look like getting beat by everyone. So as long as they win the game, Middlesbrough, we're not going to lose anything. Plus money on the -1 Asian handicap. Despite Middlesbrough's poor recent run of results, if they wouldn't easily here, I'm not at all surprised because Watford are a massive, massive fade at the moment.
Good job, my friend. Great to talk to you. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
Same to you guys. Absolute pleasure. Take care.
It was a pleasure. The meat man. Nigel loves Palace Everton under 2.5, by the way. That's up at vsin.com. So let's get a ruling this month. No appeal. And
they withdraw points on the table?
They're looking at maybe a 20, 30, or 40-point reduction.
Wow. So they go down to 11. They're right there.
Way down. You'd be at the bottom.
Was it Bournemouth at the bottom?
You'd be
9 points or something like that.
What are they at right now?
Let's see. I just pulled it up. I think bottom of the table is 9 points.
What does Man City have?
41.
What if they get 30 points taken off?
Yeah, you're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yep. Right? And that's why one of the biggest bets before the season was relegation.
Yeah, they're at 41, so they get 30 withdrawn. They would be in 19.
All right. Nigel's got a great source, and the source is telling him 40 points. And then it comes down. That's wild because remember you see this all the time in the NFL where you appeal and usually it goes your way. They'll knock. Hey, you got 6 games. Hey, we'll knock it down a game or 2, or MLB, right? And he's saying in the past that they would say, okay, you're going to waste our time. We're going to tax stuff. It's going to be worse now.
Yeah.
All right. I'm looking forward to this coming up. Do you concur? Up next. This is a very difficult move, and I believe Von Tobel has done this before. Do you concur? Coming up next on VSiN. Follow the money, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Do a little Daytona, a little NASCAR at the top of the hour. Fun show today, eclectic mix, and it's a big college basketball card tonight, which we'll get to in a second, and some marquee games Saturday with the great Wes Reynolds. He joins us now on the Progressive Guest Line. It's a weird start right now, what's going on to Genesis. What do you think of the leaderboard and the low scores?
Yeah. Look, Paul, good to be with you and John this afternoon. This course is playing a little bit different than it played 3 weeks ago when we were able to be aboard Harris English for the winter. It's a little less approach heavy and a little less scrambling. Scrambling's still going to be really important, but this is a big course at Torrey Pines, 7,800 yards, and you got some rain and some wind today too. So it's important to have that carry distance off the tee. You haven't had to really be like a big driver of the golf ball from a distance standpoint to win in the past, but it's helping you if you're able to do that today. But, just when you think maybe Scotty Scheffler's coming back to earth a little bit, because I even said on long shots this week that I preferred Rory McIlroy over Scotty in terms of the top 2 in the market, just because I think Rory drives the golf better still than Scotty. But Scotty Scheffler's still the best ball striker in the world, and he is tied a 3-way tie at 3 under par, and right now plus 115 I'm looking at in play to go ahead and win the Genesis at Torrey this weekend.
Wes, are you looking, like when you're looking at adjusted odds and things going into the next round to potentially win this thing, what do you look for and from what you've seen that maybe would put you on a guy on an adjusted tournament price?
Yeah, more often than not, John, I look for guys that are really killing it on the iron play, because I think that always stays true. Putting has so much variance, especially when you're on these POA greens out in San Diego, because they're fast and they're really bumpy. These are not smooth greens. So all of a sudden you got a putt that looks like it's going dead in, hits a little bump, and then goes 3 feet by. So that's what you're going to have. So putting always has a lot of variance. So I tend to look at the strokes gained approach and the strokes gained ball striking, and who's right at the top there through 11 holes, and that's Scotty Scheffler gaining about 2.5 strokes on approach already for the round.
All right, deep card, not the sexiest card, but college hoops tonight. Let's start with every ticket cash is the same, doesn't matter. How about Sam Houston State against Jacksonville State?
Yeah, Paul, this is a very rare occurrence as we are now halfway through February. We're only 2 weeks from March. It's hard to believe, but It's a very rare occurrence in a conference game, this being Conference USA tonight, that you get the first place team is an underdog to the last place team. Jacksonville State, by the way, is 9-3 in Conference USA. They got a 2-game lead over Middle Tennessee State and Liberty. Liberty's probably the best team in the league when you really look at the power rating. And then you got a Sam Houston team that is 1-10 in conference play, but they've been losing all of these close games. They've all been by single digits. They've lost several in a row. They had a chance to beat Liberty on the road on Saturday and just couldn't get it done. And they've been really unlucky, in this 7-game losing streak. So I laid a little money line and $1.40 with Sam Houston State at home against Jacksonville State. It's just it's one of those things. I think they're a solid 3-point shooting team, Sam Houston State, about 37.5% clip, and they're at home. It's just it's almost like going with the gut. The numbers would say, hey, go with Jacksonville State. They're 9-3 versus a 1-10 team in conference play, but going with the gut here, and I think Sam Houston State is the right side, and I think the market is telling you such.
What about Memphis, Wes? I invoked the Temple game a few weeks ago, right? Maybe like a month ago. They went out to Temple on the road, 7.5-point favorites, lost the game outright. Eerily similar number on the road against South Florida here today.
Yeah, John, you're right. Memphis really, if you look at them, they're 10-1 in the league in the American. They're the best team by far, I think, in the American. I think Penny's got a good squad and an older squad too. Not a lot of freshmen on this team, but they really haven't been covering numbers. I think and I don't usually pay attention to against the spread records very much, but they're 3-8 in conference play, and they haven't been able to get away laying big numbers against Temple, who you mentioned they played back at home in the return match on Sunday. No Jamal Mashburn Jr. for Temple, and Memphis really couldn't get away from them. They didn't cover double digits against Tulsa. They couldn't get away from Rice on the road. So they've had a lot of these close shaves, and now you're getting South Florida, and we know South Florida was a really good team last year. They ended up winning 25 games going to the NIT. They lost 3 starters, 1 to Louisville, 1 to Cincinnati, also 1 to Alabama. And then, of course, Amir Abdur-Rahim suddenly passes away about a week and a half before the season at a young age of 43. Ben Fletcher takes over as the interim. It's been a little bit of a lost season for USF. They're only 500. They're 12-12. But this is a game where I feel like, okay, they're going to bring the energy. They're going to get up for Memphis. Memphis is the best team in the conference. This is a chance to get maybe some accomplishment in what is a really lost season to maybe beat the best team in the league. So I took the points with USF.
This makes a lot of sense what you're doing here. Cal State Bakersfield first half. You have UC San Diego, good team off a huge win. Revenge, beating Irvine on the road. And now you think maybe they come out slower. Bakersfield's ready for them.
Yeah, you hit it, Paul. UCSD early in the year played Irvine at home, and that was kind of the old proverbial show 'em who's boss game, because Irvine has really been the best team in the Big West. I think they've won 4 of the last 6, 5 of the last 8 years, and UCSD put everything they did in that game and still lost to Irvine. Then they get the return match at the Bren Center on Saturday, and UCSD just went bonkers from the 3 in the second half. I think they hit about 16 threes. So you finally took down Irvine. You finally, the Johnny-come-lately, finally beat the top team in the conference. And you got a team, the Tritons. They're 20-4. They're a pretty good team. Them and Irvine are the clear 2 best teams in the Big West. But now you play in that atmosphere at Irvine where it was sold out on Saturday night. Now you got a Bakersfield where it might be a third full. They might have 1,000 people in the building total, in a building that's about 3,500. And Bakersfield's not very good. They're 10-15, but I think maybe you get a sleepy UCSD tonight. And 7.5, that's a lot in the first half. It's 13.5 for the full game. So you could, if you want to split half unit first half, half unit full game, I think that'd be a good way to go. But this just seems like a time where UCSD kind of like gets through it. And maybe they just don't have that max energy they had Saturday night and just kind of gets by here.
All right, what about the Terps? Ranked underdog on the road, though, against Nebraska. 1.5, 147.5 or thereabouts for side and total in favor of the Huskers. What are you doing here?
Yeah, I make the line where it is, John. I do lean Nebraska. It's that unranked favorite against ranked underdog. Not that that's automatic. Everybody knows about that for sure. But I went total here and under 147.5. The first game was 69-66, and Maryland hit 10 threes. And that's what I think Nebraska is going to try to make Maryland do. Nebraska, they front the post and they try to, not get beat off the dribble and help a little bit on the dribble. So they'll leave some open threes for a Maryland team that does shoot it at a good clip, about 37%, but they don't take a lot of threes. They only take about 35% of their shots in the 3 because they've got a potential lottery pick. And I know you pay attention to these mock drafts, John, and Derek Queen, who may end up getting in the lottery. He can really score in the post, and they're going to feed him. They're going to feed Julian Reese. I think you try to let Maryland's guards beat you from distance, and that's what Nebraska is going to try to do. And then, Nebraska. It's going to be tough for them to beat those Maryland guards off the dribble. So I thought this total came a little bit high at 147.5. This is probably high 130s, low 140s for me.
Wes Reynolds, our guest on the Progressive Guest Line. Follow the money, Paulie and JVT VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Some big games Saturday, highlighted by number 1 against number 2. Any early thoughts on Bama Auburn?
Yeah, and I think really they have been the best two teams, and I wrote about them a little bit in our college basketball betting guide doing the SEC. Would probably lean Auburn. We don't have a line. I'm sure they're going to come at least a small dog, being that they're playing in Tuscaloosa on the road at the Coleman Coliseum. I like both these teams, and I think Alabama's been the hotter team of late. I think Auburn, chinks in the armor. They got handled at home last Saturday by Florida, and then had to pull away a little bit late in the final 10 minutes of the second half to get by Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt made a really good rally to tie that up. But, yeah, I would lean Auburn there, I think, in the spot. You've got two teams that I think are probably going to end up being both number 1 seeds.
All right. Houston at Arizona, what do you make it? What would you do there?
Well, Houston defensively is as good as anybody, and I know they're rated number 6. I have them power rated number 2 just because their defensive numbers are so good. Now, they're a team you're going to worry about as you get in the mark because they play so hard defensively, and even though they shoot the 3 well, that team we've seen in the NCAA tournament, one night you go on a scoring drought and you're out. And that's what's happened to Houston the last couple of years when I think they've had Final Four good teams. But Arizona, all of a sudden, I think that they've really figured it out. Now that they moved Townsend, the Oakland transfer, to the bench, and they're starting those international kids at center, they've been a lot better, even though Kansas State got them. Kansas State, by the way, they're kind of a red-hot team in the Big 12 after they were a real mess. So they've won several in a row, so keep an eye on the Wildcats.
What about Purdue at home over Wisconsin?
Yeah, Purdue but kind of blew that game against Michigan. And credit to Michigan because they really fought it out. But, yeah, Purdue Michigan got the revenge. I think Wisconsin's been playing a little bit above their skis here, so I like the Boilermakers on Saturday.
Great job, my man. Good luck with the golf. Talk to you soon. Good luck with the picks.
You bet, fellas. Thanks for having me.
There you go. Wes Reynolds. Nebraska under, Bakersfield first half. A couple of his plays, and then the golf as well. What he had in Sam Houston. That is wild, the Sam Houston.
Right.
They're taking money, too, up to 2.5.
That steam's going to follow, too, when they see it.
Yeah, and you see that all the time with championship week. A team that swept in the regular season be favored in the third median as well. We'll turn our attention to the Daytona 500 up next. Talk a little NASCAR with Nick Giffen, giving out some picks as well. A plethora of picks coming up, and there are a lot of long shots coming up on VSiN. Follow the money. Sirius XM Channel 158, live from Circa. Viva Las Vegas.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Stick around, some MLB futures at the bottom of the hour. Eclectic mix, I told you before the show started. True to our word, Nick Giffen joins us now from Action Network at RotoDoc on X. He's on the Progressive Guest Line. Time to talk Daytona 500 with a plethora of picks here. Appreciate the time, my friend. You look back at some of these big tickets that have cashed. Why do you think this race is so hard to handicap, and we've seen such big favorites cash the last couple years?
Yeah, Daytona is one of the 2 really big tracks along with Talladega. That's 2.5 miles or longer, steeply banked. And what NASCAR does is they set up an aerodynamic and an engine package that keeps all the cars tightly bunched together. And when they're all tightly bunched together, pretty much anybody can win. It's really easy to pass as long as you got the draft. And then when one driver makes a mistake, it can wreck out 20 drivers at once. So creates a lot of randomness. And when there's a lot of randomness, you can get a lot of long shot winners.
Absolutely. Okay, so a 20-1 last year, 33-1, 33-1, 100-1. 2 of them made your card here. How about Byron at 18-1?
Yeah, William Byron is the defending Daytona 500 winner. He has 2 Daytona wins and a runner-up finish in 14 career starts at Daytona. If we expand it to all the drafting tracks, he has 4 drafting track wins and 34 starts. William Byron, there's like 7 drivers, I would say, that are the elite of the elite drafting track drivers, and William Byron is one of those 7. You can't really take them shorter than like 18-1 though, because of what we talked about, this randomness. So thankfully, William Byron, of those 7 drivers that I consider super elite at drafting tracks, he is the one that falls outside that 16 to 18-1 range there, right at the cusp of that. So I definitely don't mind betting William Byron at 18-1.
All right, what about Cindric? I know you had him on your card and tying it into it because I think he's got a win here in the last 3 years. It does seem that even with the randomness, there is some weight to be held on some track history here, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Austin Cindric runs for Team Penske. Team Penske also has Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney. They've won the last 3 NASCAR championships combined between his 2 teammates. Cindric hasn't won a championship, but he does have that Daytona 500 win a few years ago. And along with his teammate Logano, he's just one of 2 drivers to have led at least 13 laps at all 4 super speedway races last year. Daytona and Talladega each get 2 races a year. He led 5% of all the laps he's run at super speedways. You think it's so random. If you just randomize 5%, right? That's like 20-1. So, 25-1 is some very nice value there if his leading randomly 5% of laps.
All right. How about Bubba Wallace, 25-1?
Yeah, Bubba Wallace, also one of the most aggressive drivers. And at super speedways, you need to be aggressive. You need to take positions away from drivers. You can't just you can coast around and ride, but you're not going to grab the lead that way. And Bubba Wallace is willing to be very aggressive. That's why he has a win here at Talladega, the other super speedway. He's been very close at Daytona, very close at Atlanta, the other a little bit smaller drafting track. So I think Bubba Wallace is willing to do whatever it takes to win. I like 25-1 on him.
All right, let's round this out because you got some long shots in there with Gragson and Jones. So what's the thought process of these two?
Yeah, this one, the 2 are a little different. Noah Gragson, kind of a younger guy in his 2nd or 3rd full-time year, just like Bubba Wallace, extremely aggressive. Noah Gragson actually was in a teammate to Eric Jones a few years ago, and he nearly won a race at Talladega. He and Ross Chastain were leading coming to a green flag on a late restart. They ended up wrecking each other trying to go for the win, and neither of them ended up winning. Well, now Gregson's gone over to a new team, or I shouldn't say a new team, but a new team for him, Front Row Motorsports, and they have a win at Daytona with Michael McDowell, that 100-1 winner a few years ago. So Front Row Motorsports very fast with that Ford power, and they also have an alliance with Team Penske. As far as Eric Jones is a previous Daytona winner himself, winning the summer race a handful of years ago. He's also won an exhibition race at Daytona, the preseason Clash that used to be at Daytona. And just like I talked about with Cindric, who's led 5% of all the laps he's run at super speedways, in this next-gen car, which debuted in 2022, Eric Jones has led a little more than 3.5% of all super speedway laps in the next-gen car, right? So that's like around 30-1 if you just picked a random lap he was leading. So I love getting him at 55-1.
Paul the Money, Paulie and JVT VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Nick Giffen, our guest at RotoDoc on X. He's with the Action Networks on the Progressive guest line. So how about a prop here and a big price as well? Walk us through what you're thinking here with this prop.
Yeah, so I got a prop on John Hunter Nemechek to finish as the top Toyota driver at 22-1. He's also Eric Jones's teammate, so we just talked about Eric Jones. And John Hunter Nemechek has really performed well at these super speedways for, a smaller team, Legacy Motor Club that he and Eric Jones are on. There's only 11 Toyotas in the 40 or 41 car field, depending on the way qualifying and the dual races shake out tonight. So out of 11, if this race is really random, right, they all should be 10-1. So getting 22 is a really nice number considering John Hunter Nemechek in 5 of his 8 career super speedway starts has finished 11th or better. That usually puts him around 2nd or 3rd in his manufacturer, in this case, Toyota. So he just needs maybe one more Toyota spot to get that top Toyota, and he's been very close several times.
So we've gone over the best bets in terms of the outrights and the Toyota, or excuse me, the top finisher there. Do you do any matchups? Are there any matchups that stuck out to you at all?
I do matchups, but the thing with super speedway racing is because everything is so highly random, you really need kind of a big edge, and most books are pricing both sides, minus 110 each, and when things are about 50-50, you're just essentially paying the juice. So you really want to be looking for some plus money matchups. if you find some plus money matchups out there, especially if you're getting beyond like plus 110 and the equipment of the cars are relatively equal, then I think you go ahead and take the plus money almost blindly. But other than that, it's pretty tough because sportsbooks know, these races are so random.
I've been in this space for about 10, 12 years. I don't recall this. You do NASCAR and you do college basketball player props?
That's right. I love college basketball. I got actually my gambling, so-called career started just over a decade ago, doing daily fantasy college basketball. So I've got my own projection model. I have a PhD in mathematics, right? So I love building projections, and so I project player props, and now I bet them, and they've been going very, very well since I joined Action Network. So you're going to break down Gonzaga and San Fran later, and you'll tweet out a player prop? Yeah, if I find something of value, I'll definitely tweet it out on my X handle @RotoDoc. Some games there isn't any value. I looked at Maryland and Nebraska earlier today, and I couldn't find much value. But San Fran and Gonzaga, because they're a little bit smaller market teams, sometimes it's a little bit easier to find value on player props. All right, we'll look forward to that. I appreciate it. Good luck, and thanks for a few minutes. Absolutely, anytime. Thanks, Nick. Well done. Those are the plays. Byron, Cedric, Wallace, Gregson, Jones, and then John Hunter, top Toyota, 22-1, some big shots. And again, looking back, 20-1, 33-1, 33-1, 100-1. Your winners the last 4 years. NFL news, it's official, the divorce. Jets moving on from Rodgers. And now what do they do? And a couple people throwing out Cousins, Fields, Dart. One offshore book has, if it's not Tyrod Taylor, what the odds would be. Cousins is 7-1. Fields is 3-1.
Is Cousins? You can't do that financially, can you? With what you're going to eat with Rodgers and everything that's going to happen there.
That's a fair point,
right?
I know.
Would you want to take on that contract?
Maybe they run it back with Taylor and go draft. Apparently, they're interested in Dart.
Yeah,
the race could be on for the guy. I don't get it.
Have you seen this? Like everybody's plan is get a bridge, draft Jackson Dart. Apparently, despite the fact that Dart for some reason is not in the running to be the first overall pick, he is the end-all be-all plan to get him ready to be the starting quarterback for your franchise in a year. I just wonder if he's not in the running for the first pick, why is he the slam dunk to be the developmental guy?
Right. Cleveland, rumors are Danny Dimes, Fields, Darnold, and Russell Wilson.
Russ makes sense.
And then I would like to I would trade Garrett and then get a haul too. I would do that. And again, I don't think Cam Ward goes number 1 or number 2. And then the other news that Pittsburgh called Jacksonville about Lawrence. And whether it was internet conjecture or whatever, but if they offered a 1 and a 2 for this guy, I mean, you got to be kidding me. That's a snap call if I'm Jacksonville to get that. And number 1, get off this contract. 5 for $275.
The only reason you hang up is because you call other teams to see if you can get more.
Yeah, right.
And then you call them back. You're like, all right, let's do this thing.
Oh, that's nuts. But apparently Pittsburgh's going for it. Then at DraftKings, Rodgers is 2-1 to go to the Steelers. And then at one offshore book, he's minus 160 to go to Pittsburgh.
Minus 1, I would take the no if that would. There's just no way. That's oil and water. There's no way Tomlin would deal with Rodgers doing the thing, McAfee talking, doing everything he does every single week.
What's funny you bring that up, though, too, but we didn't know Brown and Bell were cuckoo at the time.
Right.
But the job he did, Brown was a saint.
He kept him down.
Yeah, he did.
Le'Veon Bell, too.
It was never an issue.
Yeah.
And it turned out they were nuts, especially Brown.
I mean, unless he can bring him in and, get that crazy down a little bit.
But there's pressure there, though, too. I mean, the fan base has had enough. I mean, can you win a playoff game here? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's okay, great, I get it. You never have a losing record. But can you win a playoff game?
You've been held back by your quarterback position the entire time.
No, that's
you
fair.
need to do something.
That's the best way to say it, too. Right,
yep.
Right.
You need to do something. And getting Lawrence might get it for you. You have to upgrade the quarterback position. The Kenny Pickett's, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson's, all these guys they've been trying to do it with, can't do it.
And they're free agents, but I was going to say it's night and day between globally and what DraftKings has with the Rodgers numbers. Because with the Rodgers stuff, it's either Pittsburgh, Las Vegas, and then there's everyone else.
Yep.
And then with DK, everyone's bunched up, and I certainly think no Minnesota, no chance. No San Francisco as well. It was a wild night in the world of sports. Some huge upsets and 2 vicious beats. We'll recap it, win-lose, coming up next.